When you hear the term activate your audience, that may not be a phrase that you've heard before. I think everybody kind of understands what we mean by that. That's actually an element of our demand gen framework. We have a 4-pillar framework, if you will. The first pillar is planning and identifying your ideal customer profile and messaging. And then the next pillar is activating your audience, which is really, now that we know who our customer is, what are the things we need to do to get in front of that customer and really get them aware of who we are and what we're all about and the problems that we solve. And then the third pillar of our framework is establishing authority and empathy. And so one of the goals of activating your audience is to get traffic over to your website, because we believe the best place to establish authority and empathy is actually on your website, a site that you own and control. And then the fourth pillar of our framework is basically nurturing relationships. We're all B2Bs here. We can't control when a buyer is going to be ready to say yes to us, but what we can control is that when they are ready to say yes, they think of us first and not our competition. So that's kind of our framework. I wanted to give you that in context. Today, what we're going to do is talk about, well, how do we activate our audience? And as I mentioned, the goal is really in activating our audience is getting our point of view in front of our targeted customer. And so we want to make sure that we're going where our customers go to learn and that we're sharing information that will help them understand the problems that we solve and how we see the world as it relates to those problems that we solve. And one of the goals is also to, as I mentioned earlier, drive traffic to our website. So when we're activating our audience, a big part of that is what are we doing outside of our website to get in front of the people that really matter to us. And we do want to establish trust there. We want to build trust when we're activating our audience. So one of the things that I'm seeing change over the last couple of years is how important it is that we start establishing trust in those places where our audience is hanging out. Even just a few years ago, what we were trying to do is get as many people to our website as possible, and that's where we build trust and do all those things. But in today's world, the buyer is in more control than they ever have been before, so we need to be pushing useful, helpful information out there where they are and being okay with that. A lot of B2Bs struggle with that because they think, oh, all my good stuff's got to be on my website, or all my good stuff's got to be behind a gated form. The reality is all your good stuff really needs to be where your customers are, and it needs to be framed in a way that really adds clarity around the problems that you solve for them. That's another challenge that we see B2Bs having today is they're kind of all over the place in what they're saying to their customers out in social media and places like that. And really what we're finding is it's much better for you to pick 3 or 4 pillars, areas that you really provide great value to your buyer, and then communicate frequently and often your point of view around those pillars and the problems that you solve around those pillars and tips and ideas on how they can overcome those challenges and do that where they are. We're finding that you're having a lot more success that way. And so really when we look at, I'm just looking at the agenda here again, I'm moving down to, right underneath keys to activating your audience. Another key part of this is the ICP, your ideal customer profile. One challenge that we're seeing businesses struggle with is they want to go really broad. It's like, hey, if somebody can write me a check and sign a contract, that's who I want to market to. And the reality is you might be able to sell to anybody that can write you a check. But when it comes to marketing your business, we really want to market to that customer segment that you can serve absolutely the best. Now, you'll get some fringe customers, just by being out there and being active. But when we activate our audience, we really want to understand who is that niche customer firmographically, psychographically, that really resonates well with your business, the services that you offer. And that's who we want to target. And that's who we want to talk to. If we try to talk to everybody, we're going to dilute our message. And so, some of the best advice I got a long time ago was not even related to B2B marketing. It was on public speaking, but it holds true today. And that is, if you're going to go speak publicly to an audience of 100 people or 1,000 people, there may be 1 or 2 people in that audience, or 10% or whatever, that really are just hanging on their edge of their seat, listening to every single word that you share. And the reality is that's who you're speaking to. All those other people that are there are just there, but it's those that are hanging on the edge of their seat that are the ones that really matter. And when we're thinking about building out our marketing plan to activate our audience, those are the folks that we're trying to message to, the ones that care the most. And then once we have that figured out, it's just what is the right information that they're going to care about? What are the things that we can say about our business that are going to really differentiate us from our competitors, but also how they're doing it today? And then how do we put that in bite-sized chunks where they can easily consume it in a format that makes sense wherever they happen to be? And that gets me right down to the next piece here, which is our little formula, if you will, on how to activate your audience. It starts with that ICP that I just talked about. But from there, then we have to decide how we're going to distribute our information. One of the key goals in activating your audience in 2022 isn't about, as I've already mentioned, driving traffic to your site, but rather giving value where they are. And so we've got to distribute our content paid and through paid and organic methods. And a key point here is we need to be spending money to get our message in front of our right buyers today. There has never been more of an opportunity for a B2B company to get the right message in front of the right buyer than right now. But one of the things you need to be thinking about in terms of how do I get my message out there is it's not about clickbait anymore. It's not, hey, let's run an ad to generate a lead. Let's run an ad to generate traffic to our website. Although getting traffic to our site is a goal, really, it's about how do we get our ideal customer to actually consume the information and value that we have to share for them at the stage that they're in as it relates to where they are in their journey. And so start thinking about a paid distribution strategy, more about content consumption than about lead generation and even about necessarily traffic to your website. So as we identify our ideal customer, we want to reach them via paid because that's a very low cost, guaranteed delivery of our information. But then we also need to have an organic strategy. So how are we going to reach them in a non-paid way? And so when you think about non-paid, that's when, it's organic posts on social, it's getting our sales reps and key employees within our company to share our content. It's engaging with partners or influencers that have the ear of our customer. All those things are really critical. So if we want to activate our audience, we need to know who they are. We've got to have the messages that resonate with them. And then we've got to use paid, organic, and influencers as a way to get in front of them. Now, I've got a lot of resources for you guys today. We're not going to look at them all, but I wanted you to have them available to you. One is this cheat sheet that we've had for a while. That was easy for me to say. And I just updated it because I knew we were going to have this meeting today. And this is a demand gen cheat sheet. So it's going to go over more than activating your audience. It has all stages of the funnel here. And I'm not going to go through each one of these, but I wanted you to kind of see how this works from an activate your audience perspective. And so really activating your audience is very heavily in the awareness stage and even starts working into the evaluation stage. And so, in the world of demand gen, if we truly want to generate demand, we need to get in front of a problem. And so another thing that I see businesses struggle with is they're really trying to capture demand. Somebody already has a problem, they're problem aware, and they want to be the vendor that wins the business. And I would suggest to you there's a huge opportunity in generating demand, which means making your prospect aware they have a problem that you can solve for them. And that's really what awareness is about, is getting your point of view about problems that they may be living with that A, they may not even know they have, or B, they don't even know there's a way out of it. And so content at that level, at that problem unaware stage, is really great when we're talking about activating our audience. And I've got some stuff that I'll share with you in a minute on the types of content that we can share with them. But really great places to get this information out there would be social sites. So in the B2B world, to me, that's LinkedIn. We're having great success with our clients in LinkedIn today. We're even having some success on Twitter. We're having success on Facebook, and it really just depends on the type of business. So I'm not giving you kind of carte blanche what we're seeing, but the idea is let's get in front of our buyers where they go, and let's share at this stage things that challenge their norms, that give them our point of view on how to solve problems. And from a paid perspective, we're recommending about 40% of your budget go in this kind of top of the funnel awareness stage. And then moving down to the next level there, you've got the evaluation or problem aware. So now that you know that they're aware of the problem, we have a different type of content that we want to get to them, and we want to bring in a different tactic here as part of our paid strategy, which would be retargeting. Now, one thing that we're seeing is working really well in the world of retargeting today, and for those of you that may not know what retargeting is, when somebody comes to your website, you can now present them different information out there on the web away from your site based on the fact that you know that they were on your site. And what we're having lots of success with is retargeting back in social. So if they came to your website from maybe an ad that you were running in LinkedIn and they landed on a blog and it was on a particular topic and now they're back on LinkedIn, you can retarget them with a lower funnel message. And we're finding that that's working really well. So when you think about, what should you be promoting to activate your audience from a paid or even organic perspective, obviously blog content, any kind of useful information that's going to help them understand that the way they may be doing their business right now, may not be the best for their business. So, what are the things that we can talk about? And this is why I love, really understanding your ideal customer profile, because if you go and talk to your best customers, you're going to find that there's some things that they love about your business that if other businesses knew about those things, that they would be interested in your business too. That's really the kind of stuff that you want to be sharing in this activate your audience phase. Like I said, I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but I wanted you to have it, and it'll kind of give you a sense of, what should you be producing at the different stages of the funnel, and then what kind of tactics make the most sense. Let me jump back over to the agenda here. Okay, so if you're following along, I did have, these are the types of content that when we're trying to activate our audience work really well. One is what I call the what you do, who for post. Many times businesses are afraid to talk about, these are the problems that I solve. I solve these types of problems for these types of customers. And what we found is when you can actually speak directly to your customer about the problems that you solve and have posts specifically dedicated to, hey, this is what we do and this is who we do it for and these are the problems that we solve. That's really great content to be promoting at top of the funnel as we're trying to activate our audience. Number two, we talked about traffic to your website. While it's not the primary goal anymore, it is still a very important goal, because when somebody is ready to learn more, we want them to go to your site, because that's where we do establish authority and we establish empathy with our buyer. So we do have to have a strategy when we're creating our social content calendar or our activate our audience content calendar on how we're going to get folks to our site. Blog posts are a great way to do that. So if you write a blog and you promote that blog as an ad in social media, that's going to drive people to your blog to read the entire context of that blog. So that's a great way to drive traffic to your site. Next bullet down is belief, POV, challenge, norm. And so remember, we're trying to create demand, which means getting ahead of the problem and actually talking to people that are problem unaware. So they are ideal for us and they have a problem. They may not be aware of it. And if we challenge their norms and share our point of view, then we're going to get them thinking differently about their business. The next one down is tip, in-feed tip. And so one of the things that I think you're going to discover that's going to work well for you in 2022 is actually take advantage of the full length of the ads that you can place like on LinkedIn. So for example, I think and I know I've got some folks from the Vende team, they can correct me if I'm wrong on this call, but I think you can have up to 1,000, maybe it's 600 characters in a LinkedIn post today that you promote. And so that's a lot of text that you can get out there and actually share a good tip. And the idea is for them to be able to consume that entire tip without them having to go to your website. So they're going to be exposed to your brand, they're going to be exposed to your point of view, and they're going to get something useful without having to click to your site. And you're going to see why that's really important when we look at some benchmarks here. Pardon me, here in just a little bit. And then the last bullet down is to add a helpful resource. And so, there's a big debate going on in the world of B2B demand gen today on, do you gate or ungate content? And I'm not here to have that debate today, but what I do want to communicate is we still need, whether we're going to gate or ungate resources, we still need to have really helpful guides, playbooks, things like that that are going to help the buyer as they're going through their journey of dealing with this problem and getting that problem resolved. We need to give them, premium content, if you will. And so we want to promote that content as we're trying to activate our audience. So, moving down the agenda, I got this really cool, remarkable pad for Christmas. And I was super excited about it and super excited about today because my plan was that I was actually going to draw this during our meeting, and then my lack of technical skills made that impossible. And so I ended up just taking a screenshot of it and putting it here. But what I wanted to do is just summarize what I wanted to share today with you guys about activating your audience in a little bit of a framework. So when I think about how do I go to market to activate my audience, I think about it kind of this way. And I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up. So, I want to make sure that I've got remarkable long form information on my website. That's going to help me, get my point of view across and to really provide useful information to my buyer. It's also going to help me generate good search engine traffic for my website. And so, what I'm recommending is that, once a week or twice a month, you're writing, 1,000+ blog or some article that's going to be very useful to your buyer, and you're putting that on your website. So that's kind of foundational. From there, we want to repurpose that content in bite-sized chunks that are channel appropriate. Channel appropriate meaning, we're going to share this information out on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever our customers are going, in communities, etc., with our sales reps, on their social profiles, etc. And so we want to reformat all that content. And this is a big opportunity that I see businesses struggle with today, is they'll write a blog and then they'll do like one post to promote that blog in social media. Well, the reality is that one blog could be 10 posts potentially, with each of the key points within that blog or long form piece of content being a social post. And so repurpose and reformat that content so that it can get out there in channels where your customers are hanging out. And then from there, we want to distribute that content in many of the ways I've been talking about already. So paid, organically, getting our employees and key subject matter experts, everybody out there sharing that content or engaging with that content. And then using all of your community that's actually seeing this information help you understand what content do they care about the most. And so you're able, once you start sharing your content, you're going to get engagements, likes, shares, comments, etc. And that's going to help you understand, boy, this post really resonated well, or this topic really resonated well. And you let them kind of help you inform what becomes your premium content. So we start at the bottom, which is let's write some really useful information that's long form. Let's cut it up. Let's distribute it out there where our customers go and hang out. And then let's let them tell us what they care about the most. And from there, we can ultimately determine what should become our premium content.